We all saw the viral video showing a woman be mercilessly beaten. The narrative changed rather quickly. In the video, you see a woman surrounded by a mob of black teenagers in Chicago, and they put their arm around her neck, choke slam her, and then begin mercilessly beating her. Now, when bringing this up, many people pointed out, no, they're actually not beating her. They're beating a guy. It's a different guy. They say, get him, get him. They were simply pulling her out of the way, they all said. Well, I got news for all of you. That's not true. I wonder why this narrative emerged from people saying, they weren't actually beating this white woman. And I said, okay, maybe. I don't see them pull her away. I see them pull her down. And they do go after this other guy, so maybe that's true. It seemed like she was trying to get in the way to stop some kind of fight. As it turns out, the white woman was actually dating the black man, and they were both mercilessly beaten. Wow. So the story was actually both stories in one. Welcome to the modern condition, I guess. Crime is running rampant in these cities. More and more stores are shutting down. You can't go to Walgreens in San Francisco anymore. There's human feces all over the street. And now to make it worse, you got marauders running around Chicago, smashing things up. Oh, wait till you hear this one. I love this. Before, let me see if we have this one. Portland. Here we go. Portland's first Shake Shack hasn't even opened yet, and it's already been smashed up. Oh, boy. I was mentioning this the other day. I hear a lot of people say things like get off social media, stop paying attention to the news and things like that, and your life will improve. Well, yeah, ignorance is bliss, Here's a question I have for you. If there was a gigantic comet heading straight towards the Earth, and it would rip through the Earth, causing the planet to explode, would you want to know about it? Honest question. Me? Yeah, I probably would. If, the challenge is you can't know if you'd want to know unless you know. You know what I mean? Like if someone came to you and asked you that, you'd say, is it going to happen? Now I want to know, right? But if no one ever says anything, hey, look, the reality is ignorance is bliss. You probably would be better off just not realizing you're seconds away from being vaporized in an instant. But I guess this is the reality of the world. So my view is, if you don't pay attention to what's going on, and if you ignore all of this, one day the violent mob will surround you and then mercilessly beat you. But oh, wait, there's more. The best part of this? Apparently, you got one politician, I believe it's a politician, saying that it's poverty. They're anti-poverty protesters. These people deserve what happens to their city. I know. People are like, Tim, who are you to talk? You fled that city. Partly. I left Chicago more so to do something, not so much because I was concerned about the crime. I lived through the crime. And fair point, though. It's a brain drain. People fleeing these cities means the cities will only get worse. But you know what? There's only so much I can do. If I am in a room full of people and a fire starts and I say, everybody, please help put that fire out. And they go, you're a far right conspiracy theorist. I think the fire is good. What do? You leave. You're going to stay in the burning building? No. So I can't blame people for leaving these cities. And that's why I say, get out of cities, homeschool your kids, get some chickens. Look, I got to tell you, man, the chickens thing, you will not regret it. They're funny little bastards running around, making goofy noises and laying eggs. It's fantastic. Now, listen. I know you may be saying, oh, here goes Tim again talking about these chickens. But I offer you this. You can have chickens with their goofy little faces. All right. Or you could be surrounded by a mob and mercilessly beaten. You choose. And I got to tell you, when I see this story, as much as I'm like, yeah, I feel bad for these people, they had the choice. These people constantly vote for these policies. Clap, 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 just like they do on Twitter. Here we go. A couple who were violently targeted in Chicago's out-of-control teen riots have condemned their attackers for trying to kill us after an Illinois state senator defended the mob for protesting against poverty and segregation. I just can't. I just don't even care anymore. I look at this picture of these people and I'm like, yo, y'all want to live there and have this stuff splashed in your face. I don't care anymore. That's all you, man. I'm happy for you. I've been saying this for you. Get what you vote for. I'm happy for you. Terrifying footage caught the moment on Saturday evening when Ashley, 20, and DJ, 22, were swarmed by teen rioters after they stepped out onto the streets of Chicago. The young couple, who chose not to reveal their full names, which is also kind of silly because, like, you posted pictures of your faces. You went on TV. I mean, if we want your names, it's not hard to find. Said the unprovoked attack was completely random. But State Senator Robert Peters took to Twitter the next day to come out behind the mob. Quote, I would look at the behavior of young people as a political act and statement. It's a mass protest against poverty and segregation, he said in the post, which sparked widespread outrage. What? No, it isn't. It's a violent horde of individuals just mercilessly beating an interracial couple. What? And I love this too. You know, we were asking the question last night on Timcast IRL, were they beaten because they're interracial? And I mean, this yes, it might be the case. I'm sure you've got serious racial. Look, if this guy is saying it's a protest of segregation, he's outright saying it's black teenagers rioting because of policies, because of racial politics. Now, I think it's fair to point out that not all of the teenagers were black, but I believe in Chicago, it is predominantly a large group of black teenagers. In Los Angeles, those street riots, I think, are actually fairly mixed. And it's very much Latino, I think, Hispanic. But a lot of people were posting on, they ask these questions on Twitter and stuff. They're saying, like, why won't anyone point out the race of the individuals? And it's just like, what do you do with that information? Like, serious question. What do you do with it? Are you going to, make a law based on race? Are you going to make stories targeting one race? I don't think that actually solves any of the problems. And I think it would only seek to emotionally satisfy people who don't actually want to figure out what's really going on. What I mean to say is, this guy right here saying it's a protest against poverty and segregation is doing the inverse of exactly that. Looking at the race of the mob and then being like, now this is why they did it. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. It's a bunch of teenagers with no regard for law. It doesn't matter what their race is. It matters if they care about or if they fear law enforcement or if they care about their community. And they clearly don't. So you can go the left route and say they're protesting segregation, or you can go, I don't think it's fair to call it the right wing route, because I think most of the right's probably in a similar position to me, like respect of the individual or whatever. But I think it's just the typical identitarian approach of pointing out the race. Not to mention, I mean, one of the victims is black. So the shocking scenes come after an uncontrolled mob of teenagers torched downtown Chicago, leading to at least 2 shootings and over a dozen arrests. Yeah. I have a black eye, added DJ. My face is messed up. Shoulder is pretty effed up too. It's out of place. My back is sore. I don't understand, why even just hide your names? I just don't get it. They were quickly overrun. I guess the couple was out looking to get something to eat, and the mob showed up, and then they were like, hey, leave us alone. So the mob was like, okay, and then just started mercilessly beating this guy. That's the thing too. It's like, this is a black dude, so I don't know what the race of the mob has to do with it. Gunshots rang out through the city, and 2 teens, aged 16 and 17, were shot in the carnage. In total, 15 people were arrested following the weekend of mayhem, while the riots also saw numerous vehicles seized and torched on the streets. Whatever, man. Maybe it's unfair to say, okay, like this chick is 20, this dude's 22. I don't think they've been particularly politically active, but maybe these 2 young people will now go and vote, I don't know, Republican or at least Libertarian. I'm not assuming these people have actually voted Democrat. Who knows? But I just say, when I see these stories about what's going on with crime all over the place, I just have very little sympathy for people. Here we go. Compton hit. Look at this. This is from today. This is from yesterday. Compton hit by wave of street takeovers and burglaries. Yeah, don't care. That's Los Angeles. They voted for it. Stop putting news in front of my face as if it is a bad thing that people get what they voted for. If the news came out and said leftists get universal health care, I wouldn't go, oh no. I'd be like, oh, that's what they voted for. And there are people who just keep projecting their desires and worldviews onto other people. I say no. Look, maybe deep down in the heart of hearts of these people, they really do just long for a day when roving bands of marauders will burn their homes down. They keep voting for it, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. Okay? So please, let's take let's peruse over the post-millennial. Take a trip down to Portland. Portland's first Shake Shack hasn't even opened up yet, and it's already been smashed up. Why should I care? Tell me why I should care about Shake Shack choosing to open up a location in a city where numerous stores have already shut down. Stop projecting onto other people. I'm sure the people at Shake Shack are singing and dancing, and they're square dancing inside, happy to hear that a bunch of lunatics smashed up their windows. They want it. They cheer for it. Good for them. I don't live in that world. I don't want any of that, but far be it from me to project my values onto these lunatics. Look at this. What is to be Portland's first Shake Shack was hit by vandals before it even opened. According to KGW8, someone broke a window in the brand new restaurant but did not appear to get inside. The new location on West Burnside across from Powell's Books is scheduled to open next Monday. According to police, the vandalism happened earlier this week. And then let's jump to the where do we got this one? Here we go. Let's go back in time. November 30th, 2022. I got to say, Shake Shack, you know what? They got what they wanted. And I'm not going to assume otherwise. November 30th, 2022, Portland REI location increases security following 3 break-ins in 1 week. You mean to tell me that REI in Portland was broken into 3 times in 1 week, had to bring on security, and now outright just shutting down? And Shake Shack said, this seems like a good place to start a business. Okay, look, let me just be real. Obviously, none of these people want to be mercilessly beaten in the streets or have their businesses destroyed. They're just too stupid to realize what's going on around them. So let's go back to that analogy about a burning building. If I'm in a room and I see a bunch of people lighting matches and I say, please stop doing this, you're going to burn the house down. And they go, you're just a bigot. And then throw the matches at the wall and they all just keep doing it. I'm like, I'm going to leave. Now, obviously, I don't think these people want to get caught up in a burning building, but they're the ones who set the building on fire. So what am I supposed to say about that? Look, if who were we talking to about this? Jesse Kelly, I think. If a kid touches a burning stove and gets burned by it, you say, well, you learned your lesson, right? And if they don't, what are you supposed to do? Are we supposed to live in this society where we have to restrain people? Okay, then I'll tell you this. If you think these people cannot learn, then the only solution is to rescind their right to vote. And we talked about this. I talked about it with Vivek Ramaswamy over on the Culture War podcast. And we were talking about service guaranteeing citizenship. And one of the simplest ideas was when you sign up for the selective service, you get a voter ID card that allows you to vote. And you don't have to vote. The idea was this. You don't have to sign up for the selective service, basically the draft. But if you don't vote. If you do, you get a voter ID. Now you vote. I think that's a rather simple solution. Granted, my concerns are emboldening the government in such a way. But that being said, I think there is something wrong with our current version of society. And I think the challenge is there's no policy change that's going to fix it. You know, we like to entertain this idea of service guaranteeing citizenship, that if you provide service to the country, you then get the right to vote. But that won't change anything. That just means the government is in control of who gets to vote, and then they can lock things up. Now, the argument is in Starship Troopers, where we get the service guaranteed citizenship from, no one could be denied. It was not allowed. And, okay, perhaps that's better than what we have. But I got to tell you guys, it really just comes down to one thing. Culture. That's really it. The people in Chicago, these teens who are running around smashing things up, mercilessly beating people, they don't care about you. You're not a part of their community. You're not a part of their culture. What's happened is, let's go back in time. We go back in time, and cities, towns, were effectively neighborhoods. I mean, you'd live in a town that is comparable to a neighborhood. Now, what is Chicago but like 100 different small towns all smashed together? What I mean by that is, if you lived in, let's just say, Rockville, and it was a town of 500 people, y'all knew each other. You feared wronging people. If you went around smashing things up, you'd be ostracized, kicked out. You'd have no food, nowhere to go. If there was a neighboring town called Stone Town or whatever, and someone from Stone Town came over to Rockville, you'd have very little regard for them. No one's going to hurt each other for the most part. But you'd be like, you're not from here. You don't have any special privileges here. You're not a part of our community, right? That's what's happening now in these cities. This roving band of marauding teenagers, it's because they live in a neighborhood. Well, if they smashed up that neighborhood, it would be bad for them because people they know would then come after them. But these kids, they know they can go downtown and just smash and destroy, and no one will do anything about it. In fact, the people who live in their neighborhood will probably clap and cheer for it. Remember, there were some riots that happened. I can't remember exactly where it was, but the woman went on TV and said, "Stop rioting in our neighborhood and bring it to the white people's neighborhood." You remember that? She said, "Bring it to their neighborhood. Why are you burning down our town?" I think that was Minnesota. Was that Minnesota? I can't remember. Maybe not. Maybe not. But I think many of you remember. Actually, let me see if I can find this right now. Riots in it was on CNN. Let me see if this pulls it up. I think it is. No. It'll be harder than just a quick Google search. But there was that video, I think you guys remember. It was like the family member of someone saying, "Go take the riots to their neighborhoods." Well, this is what they're doing. They're doing exactly that. They are going to and look at this. Here's the other thing. I'll say this too about the racial stuff in Portland. It's all white people. Like seriously, it's a bunch of white far leftists in this overwhelmingly white area. So I don't care about the race stuff. It's the problem is people don't care about law enforcement. People don't care about each other. People don't care about the progress, advancement. They have no kids. I think actually a large component of why we're seeing societal breakdown is people not having children. And I'll give you one of my hypotheticals, my hypotheses. So we get the Malthusianism, the planet's overpopulated, there's too many people, we got to stop, population growth can't go on forever kind of talk starting, I think it was in the 70s or something like that. Population boom. And I don't completely disagree with it. We saw a massive explosion of human population and resources are finite. What happens then is people start saying, okay, well, let's discourage having families. Everybody's having 3 or 4 kids. Let's make them stop. You now have an era of birth control where doctors go to young girls and just say, "Are you on birth control yet?" And it's like they don't care if they need it or don't need it. They just don't want them to have kids. You end up now with a generation around the world that isn't having children. Population is going to start collapsing, and I think it already is. When people don't have kids, they have nothing to lose and nothing to fear. That's the big component. And so what we're seeing right now with the far left is they don't have children. So when someone threatens them, they don't care. When they're told, "You'll be fired unless you take off that BLM mask," they say, "I don't care." But someone who has kids says, "I can't get fired. I have kids." So you see what happens is without children, society loses all fear, stability. People are concerned that something bad will happen to their children. So they all agree, let's chill the F out. When nobody has kids, they just say, "Ain't nothing you can do to me because I fear nothing. It's all on me." You also end up with extreme narcissism, people believing that they are effectively God. I think, I got to be honest, I think what we are seeing in the culture war with the left largely is due to not having children. I don't think it is, I don't think it is just academia, and I don't think it is the algorithm creates the social orthodoxy, but the inability to break free from it is rooted in the fact that these people do not have children. Now, some of them do, don't get me wrong, but what happens is roving bands go around smashing things because if they go to jail, so what? Now, you have kids? Oh, you can't go to jail. You got to feed your kids. What are you going to do? And that's where we're at right now. So I'll tell you, I think all of this is just going to get worse, to put it simply. It's going to get worse because people are having less and less kids. And so there's less of any, there's no restraint anymore. They'll do whatever they want. They'll smash whatever they want. And then they'll vote for more of it. Here's my advice to you. Get out of the cities. Homeschool your kids. Get some chickens, maybe some goats. Get some land far away from all this craziness. Have as many kids as you can. That's it. And you got to teach your kids philosophy and I don't necessarily want to say religion, because I don't care for the organized religions, but spiritual, philosophical understanding of the metaphysical. That is to say, things rooted in religion, I think, are deeply, deeply important to the moral foundations of this country. I think Judeo-Christian values, tremendously beneficial in the long run, helps us survive. But where we're going right now is not progress. They just argue that anybody who wants to keep the system the way it is conservative. And my attitude is kind of like, well, you've created an interesting political class. I'm not interested in keeping the system as it is. I am interested in keeping the system, though. And while the system has a lot of problems with it, I think we want to fix it. That's supposed to be what progressive means. Instead, what you have are what they call the progressive left, just want to burn everything down, and anyone else is conservative because they want to not burn it down. I've grown quite fond of living, and I think human civilization has done great things in making our lives better. So yeah, I prefer to keep it. But to those people that want to destroy it, they keep voting for more of it. This is what you get. So we've got to just make money, have families, move out of cities, homeschool your kids, and then give it a few generations and things will be back on track. That doesn't mean give up now. It means start doing the work. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.